The purpose of today's podcast is to explore the question, how to stop a narcissist from mental abuse. First, let's briefly discuss what narcissism is so we have our terminology straight before moving forward. Narcissism is commonly understood to be extreme self-involvement to the degree that it makes a person ignore the needs of those around them. In other words, they are not empaths. Empaths are people who are empathetic. They are capable of putting themselves in someone else's shoes and walking around in those shoes. That is something a narcissist is not capable of. They are not capable of experiencing someone else's emotions. Now, while everyone may show occasional narcissistic behavior, true narcissists frequently disregard others and their feelings. They also do not understand that the effect that their behavior has on other people. I also refer to this type of trait as a lack of self-awareness, meaning maybe they do not always necessarily intend their words to hurt, but the impact is certainly there. The fact that the narcissist cannot see that is very saddening. The only real way to stop a narcissist is to go completely no contact. If they bombard you with messages, for example, like voice messages or text messages, don't delete them as it may have to be used against them later. But ignore the message. If you have to contact them regarding settlement or kids, then keep the conversation transactional and dry. And stick to your narrative. In other words, don't buy into their triggers. Do not take the bait. They are not normal, and the sooner you emotionally dissociate yourself from them, the more control you'll have and the more irrational they become. Just keep in mind they will always hurt you because they lack emotional empathy. After the initial love bombing stage is over, they will keep up the facade of being in love with you for as long as they need to. They will do this to get what they want, but every day their resentment will grow. And that is their resentment at their need to keep up the facade. And they will either start devaluing you as a release valve for their resentment, or they will look for ways to punish you depending on the type of narcissist you're dealing with. So, how do you deal with it? The best technique is to just stop the contact. But if that is not an option, then here are some great techniques. One of the best techniques you can use is the gray rock technique. What you need to do is become like a boring gray rock when you are with the narcissist. Speak of nothing controversial or offer your opinion about anything. Basically, don't give them anything. And they will try to give you something, but do not take the bait. By being a gray rock, you will not give the narcissist ammunition to fire back at you. These people love to argue, criticize, and generally throw their weight around. If you don't give them topics to argue about, they can't argue. Another great tip is keep your contact with a narcissist to a minimum. The reason here is obvious. Less time spent with them is less time for them to rock your boat. If at all possible, do not get into a position of obligation with the narcissist, financial or otherwise. You don't want to owe the narcissist anything because they will use this debt to control you. Be careful with this. Again, never let yourself go into debt with a narcissist. They will not want you to pay them back so they can preserve their right to harass you. I have seen this. I have seen situations where plaintiffs want to go after defendants in civil cases. They don't actually want the defendant to settle. They don't want to settle. They are rejecting good settlement offers because if they accept the settlement offer, then they can't harass the victim anymore. They want to make their life a living hell. You have to be careful with these people, and that is why it is so important you never put yourself in any kind of debt with them, ever. Another great tip, if you are on the telephone with a narcissist and they begin to get into one of their rants, say something like this. Oh my gosh, I just remembered that I have to pick up my dry cleaning before the store closes. I have to go. Bye for now. You have to do this. Don't let them use you. Another great tip you can use is if you're on the phone with them, look at the clock and say, oh my God, I have a 2:15 p.m. client. I need to wrap this up. So you have to get off the phone. One thing you can do is, and this is a tip that I use quite regularly, especially as a family law attorney, but I oftentimes will be dealing with narcissists who are unrepresented. They're the opposing party. They're pro se. They just don't have a lawyer, and I'm kind of forced to deal with them, especially if we have deadlines coming up. If they are no longer able to harass the victim because the victim has a lawyer, oftentimes they'll try to harass me. And, I'll take some abuse. But if it starts becoming overwhelming, then I'll advise them, hey, we got a bad voice connection. You need to only write me or, write me an email. Keep everything in writing from now on, or only text because the conversation is not going to end. They just want to keep going. And there's not going to be a settlement, so you can pull that card. Another thing you can do is if they're on the phone and they're ranting again, you can hold the phone a distance away from your ear. Hold the phone away from your ear so you don't actually hear what they're saying, but you can hear their voice. You can know that they're saying something. So again, like I mentioned earlier, as a domestic violence lawyer, I do this frequently when dealing with unrepresented pro se parties that are narcissists and or maybe screaming at me over the phone. So I might hold the phone away from my ear and just let them have their little rant, and then when it calm down, then we can actually discuss things. Now, sometimes I'll have to tell them, hey, we got a bad voice connection. It's probably better we just do everything in writing. If they call my bluff, then fine. I'll just tell them the truth and say, look, I don't trust you, and this conversation is not going anywhere, so that's why I want everything to be in writing. But then again, remember, I'm trying not to escalate it at the same time. And whenever you say something like that, they might take it as some type of threat and they'll just want to escalate. So it's kind of a tricky situation to be in. So if it just continues and it won't stop, then I'll say, fine, it's no big deal. I'll just contact the court right now. We'll set this for a hearing and let the judge be the decider. That's actually, once the narcissist knows that the court's going to get involved, then they usually back down. And I can usually get the parties to go to mediate, voluntarily go to mediation, so we can try to get the case to settle. Now, if you become the target of a narcissist who begins to speak, say ugly things to you, you might say something like, I don't like the way you are speaking to me right now. I think I'd like to end this conversation. I'll see you again when things are calmer. You can say these words with a very calm, monotone, and determined voice. Remember, like I said earlier, be the gray rock. And if the narcissist won't let you off the phone and they just want to keep continuing to emotionally abuse you, then again, like I mentioned earlier, you can always pretend like the voice connection is bad and they're only allowed to email or text you. And this is having them email or text you is a great way to document threats. It's kind of harder to prove what was said on an unrecorded phone conversation later in court. But, if they're sending you messages in writing, then that's different. I also recommend keeping a voice recorder on yourself to protect yourself. You can order small voice recorders on Amazon. I'm literally looking at Amazon.com right now. There are literally over 1,000 small voice recorders for under $25. So if you have a smartwatch, you can probably download a voice recorder app for your smartwatch. Voice recorder apps are free in your app store. You can also use the voice recorder option on your phone's video camera to capture high quality audio. If things keep escalating, then considering hiring a family lawyer. I say family lawyer as opposed to other types of lawyers like patent lawyer, because family lawyers know how to get protective orders, restraining orders, injunctions, etc. If things get even more extreme and dangerous, a good family law attorney can outline the steps to possibly go for a protective order, and also outline the steps to have the aggressor possibly held in contempt. Now, don't think that you just need to pay a lawyer to get someone held in contempt. That's not how it works, because every case is different and the facts drive the outcome. So make sure you have the evidence on your side and you talk to a lawyer first. And remember, I'm making this podcast in Texas. Things are different in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So sometimes, even though things might appear extreme and complex, a good family law attorney might be able to draw the conclusion that the case is actually quite simple for them, since this is in fact their area of expertise, and they know how to get certain remedies for the client. In my case, I have clients coming to me all the time because they are being harassed by a narcissist. On many occasions, I was able to stop a narcissist by simply picking up the phone and in a very stern voice telling them that the victim has retained me and all communications with the victim will cease and desist, and only any communications will be through me. Further, the narcissist will realize that they cannot use that victim as their supply anymore to get their fill. Lawyering up is a great way to shut them down. Unfortunately, hiring a lawyer can be expensive. Clients do appreciate the fact that I tell them that I deal with unrepresented narcissists all the time, and my office literally has strategies on how to deal with them. Okay, so I digressed too long, so let me get back to my main points. Moving on. Don't give them access to your phone or email accounts. They can go in and delete messages before you can get them to your attorney. The problem is sometimes the narcissist can be very impulsive and might send you threatening messages in writing, like hundreds of nasty messages, something that the attorney would need to show the judge. But the problem is the narcissist knows how to get those messages off of your phone, because the narcissist knows that can be used as great evidence against them later. I've had many situations where someone might come in to me for like a consultation. They tell me, "Oh, I have all this great evidence. I have pictures of bruises and all that stuff," and then they can't find the pictures, and they're freaking out. They're taking their MacBook to the Apple store, trying to talk to a high-tech geek on how to get those images off. I mean, they're freaking out. It's very upsetting because some way, somehow, the aggressor got into their account and also deleted whatever they could off the cloud as well. So it's just a very frustrating situation for the victim. So if you think there's a chance they will hack you and possibly delete important information and evidence, then it might be smart to email the evidence to a trusted friend who doesn't intimidate easily. Or if you have a lawyer, then send them to the lawyer so they can be turned into exhibits should the court need to get involved. Keep a spare copy of the evidence on a thumb drive somewhere. Now keep in mind, if all of your evidence is stored on your phone and the evidence mysteriously disappears, then it's kind of hard to have anything to show the lawyer or the judge later. Now, it might sound easier said than done, but once you make that decision to stop being the narcissist's supply, you will render them powerless. They will hate you even more, and the deep sense of self-satisfaction is that you are in control and you have the power and they can't get to you. Once you make this decision, life becomes a lot easier for you. They don't know what to do because your dynamics have changed, and at the end of the day, they will prey on a new victim or collapse in on themselves. And you know what? Who cares? So please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what content you like the most so I can produce more of it, and with the intent to help you. Thank you, and please consider subscribing.